Dear students, in this module we will try to discuss and learn about research process and its related issues, by which you will be able to be aware of how to carry out research in a scientific manner. The learning objectives of this module are meaning and importance of research process, details of 7 steps in research process such as selection and formulation of research problem, review of earlier research, formulation of hypothesis, research design, collection of data, analysis of data and interpretation of data. We will try to look into the research process first. What is the meaning and importance? Scientific research involves a systematic process that focuses on being objective and gathering a multitude of information for analysis so that the researcher can come to a conclusion. This process is used in all research and evaluation projects, regardless of the research method, that is scientific method of inquiry, evaluation research or action research. The scientific research process is a multi-step process where the steps are interlinked with other steps in the process. If changes are made in one step of the process, the researcher must review all the other steps to ensure that the changes are reflected throughout the process. In the words of Festinger and Kurtz, although the basic logic of scientific knowledge is the same in all fields, its specific techniques and approaches will vary depending upon the subject matter. In social sciences, by and large, the research process would be based upon a practical step-by-step approach. The majority of the researchers and scientists, social and behavioral sciences, have put forward suggested 7 steps in the research process, while conducting a sample empirical research study as provided in the figure given here. In this figure, the flow chart shows that in the research process there are 7 steps are there. For example, the first one is selection and formulation of a research problem. The second one is about review of earlier literature. Third one is formulation of hypothesis. Fourth one is about research design, and the fifth one about collection of data, followed by the analysis of data, and the last 7th step is interpreting and reporting. Before discussing, we know that although the figure indicates that the research process consists of closely related activities shown in a particular order, in reality those activities overlap continuously rather than following strictly in the prescribed sequence. Of course, that depends upon the experience of researcher as the type of problem to be approached and the research design to be adopted. For all practical purposes, it is advisable that one understands all the steps to be followed in the beginning, so that the researcher will not face much difficulties for the completion of the research. However, one should bear in mind the various stages of or steps of the research process are not mutually exclusive, nor they are separate and distinct. At times, the first step, for example, selection and formulation of research problem, partially depends, that is, for formulation of research problem, it depends upon the second step, that is review of literature. Like that, there are interrelated steps are there. Having known the 7 steps, we would like to discuss each step in detail. And the first and foremost one, as stated, the selection and formulation of the research problem. Here, the specialization first and foremost one is that the researcher should select a topic which is specialized to him in a particular discipline. The specialization of the immediate research supervisor or guide also matters. The topic should be new or innovative, or at least less explored and also relevant to current affairs. In the case of researcher wants to seek funding or fellowship from the funding agency, the topic should be suitable and fall under the vision and mission of the funding agencies. Stating the objectives has to be done keeping in the preliminary review of literature and research gaps identified. For selection of the problem, earlier reading and experience, review of literature, discussion with colleagues and fellow researchers, the research supervisor and or any other senior or experienced researchers also can be contacted. The second step in the research process is review of previous or earlier research. After a preliminary review of literature, one should identify the major and minor topics that are part of a selected problem and then do an extensive review of literature pertaining to the same. This would be carefully planned based on the needed level and available resources at hand. While doing review of earlier literature, one should mainly concentrate on the empirical findings over a period of time. Care may be taken to the same in a systematic manner, and giving importance to the studies carried out recently has to be done. Similarly, besides these, the researchers should understand the major concepts and theories, gain the knowledge related to various methodological issues, and would be able to understand that recent developments taken place. Based on all these, the researcher should first identify the research gaps and justify how the research problem selected by him or her as innovative or relevant to the present context. Having known to the importance of review of literature, the sources of review of literature also is to be understood, like books, journals, published and unpublished reports from government and private sources, conference and seminar proceedings, etc. Published bibliographies from individual as well as research organizations are also good sources. A good library will be a great help to the researcher at this stage. In the recent period, the internet and websites of various national and international organizations are becoming more helpful in this regard. Very recently, InflipNet provided by the UGC to selected universities and research institutes are much more helpful in carrying out a critical and extensive review of literature on any topic or research problem of interest to the researchers. The third step in research process is the formulation of research hypothesis. Formulation of research hypothesis is very essential in the case of empirical research based on sample survey. Most quantitative social science research, which is field based, is hypothesis driven. Strictly speaking, after the extensive review of literature and based on the objectives of research, the researchers initially postulate working hypotheses, which are said to be preliminary in nature. One should state the hypothesis in testable format and collect data accordingly and apply or adopt suitable statistical tools for testing the same. The hypothesis should be specific and limited to the subject matter of research and should also indicate the type of data collected and the type of analysis to be used. The fourth step in the research process is research design. Research design gives an idea of how to proceed with the selected research problem and various methodological aspects including sample selection, etc. The main function of the research design is to decide, describe, justify and explain how you will find answers to research questions. By and large, the research design includes the following: planning a research, the logical arguments that need to be undertaken, the measurement procedure, the sampling strategy, the frame of analysis, procedures expected to get meaningful results, and at times the time frame also. The research design should have the characteristic of conducting the research most efficiently and to achieve maximum results at minimum cost. Based on the purpose of the research designs can be broadly categorized into four major ones such as exploratory, descriptive, diagnostic and experimental. In social science research, a large majority of the research used to be carried out based on the descriptive design, since most of the research is cross-sectional in nature. These naturally need decisions regarding selection of sample size and the type of sampling, that is probability or non-probability sampling types, to select the sample from the universe or target population. Research design also includes the type of data to be collected with the precise meaning and measurements of the variables to be studied. the development of data collection tools, the method of data collection and the type of statistical analysis to be carried out. Keeping all these in mind, it is expected that the researcher also takes into consideration the time factor required as well as the cost involved for carrying out the study under consideration. The academic researchers at this point of time are expected to prepare the research proposal for presentation in doctoral committee meetings and sometimes send the same to the funding agencies for fellowships. The next step in the research process is collection of data. Most research in the social sciences is centered around the field based survey as they deal with social life and human behavior. In such a situation, collection of primary data from the concerned sample of respondents is very much essential. There are several methods of primary data collection, namely observation, personal interview, mailing the questionnaire, case study, focus group discussions, etc. Likewise, there are different tools of data collection such as observation schedule, questionnaire, interview schedule, etc. Depending upon the research topic, objectives and hypothesis under consideration, the researcher should choose and justify which type of method of data collection and tool of data collection would be most appropriate to his or her research. While planning and executing the data collection, one should also take into consideration the cost involved, time taken and other resources at the disposal of the researcher. The survey or field based studies have to be planned meticulously so as to observe and or contact the selected respondents and collect the needed information for the survey with objectivity. Generally, those pursuing MPhil and PhD programs collect data in person, while in the case of large scale funded projects, data will be collected by field investigators who are normally recruited with certain qualifications and prior experience. In the later case, training plays an important role so as to collect the data uniformly, systematically and with less bias. Well, care also should be taken to monitor and supervise the field investigators' work during data collection and time management to complete the data collection in time. The next step in the research process is analysis of data. Analysis of data which follows the data collection is crucial to understand the data and interpret the same in line with the objectives and hypothesis. The crucial sub-steps involved here are editing and coding, classification and tabulation and statistical analysis. Firstly, the researcher should see that all the questionnaires or schedules and or other tools which used for data collection are intact and filled in properly, that is editing. Then one should plan for coding of the data. If post coded tool is used, the data to be entered into first into code sheets and then transferred from code sheets to the computer. Well, in the recent past, data entry is largely done directly into computer spreadsheets. Data is collected mostly in pre-coded format. The raw data has to be classified and tabulated according to the needs of the researchers based on the objectives and hypothesis with the clear measurement of the variables so as to amenable for statistical analysis. Computers play an important role in this juncture, since most of the data collected in the recent past is very large. For an easy analysis, several pre-programmed, ready-made and user-friendly software are available like SPSS, Stata, SAS, MATLAB, Minitab, etc. The researchers need to prepare a clear-cut tabulation plan and then proceed for the statistical treatment of data, making use of the percentages, means, standard deviations, correlation coefficient, etc. Attempts also should be made at this point of time to carry out testing of hypothesis, making use of suitable test of significance such as chi-square test and other non-parametric tests, t-test, f-test, z-test, etc., including multivariate analysis if any. But all these depend upon the need for the research and suitability of the data collected, as well as the researcher's capabilities to comprehend the various statistical techniques. In case of qualitative data, most researchers proceed with content analysis, and of course, in the recent past, some researchers are making use of computer software like Atlas TI, Hyper Research, Maxoda, Nivova, like other software for analysis of qualitative data. The last step in the research process is interpretation and reporting of data. At this stage, the researcher is expected to interpret the results of the data collected based on the statistical analysis. Drawing inferences has to be done with due care and caution. One should understand clearly what the data reveals and how it is collected or related to the objectives and hypotheses of the research topic under consideration, and also how it can be linked broadly with the theory. In the case of causal relations, the results based on the testing of hypotheses between the variables would be helpful here to prove or disprove the hypothesis with empirical data. The researchers should have enormous patience so as to interpret the data and the results in an impartial manner and with the correct perspective. After interpreting the results of the research, one should report the findings to the concerned stakeholders. The research has little value if the findings are not documented and reported to those who may benefit from the same. Writing a research report, that is a dissertation and a thesis in the case of MPhil and PhD programs, has to be done in a systematic, elaborate and inductive manner. The report tells the world, that is those who are concerned, what the researcher has done, what has been discovered or found, what conclusions have been drawn from the findings. Producing a quality report for that matter is a painstaking and difficult exercise for almost all researchers, since that needs special techniques of not only logic and reasoning, but also the writing and the presenting skills of the researcher. Similarly, the report may be presented in terms of text, tables, graphs and charts. Behind all these things, language need to be taken care. Generally, research report will have three sections like introductory part, main report and end part. Of course, that may vary from report to report with minor variations. Some researchers prepare a tentative report and present in a seminar by inviting few experts so as to get feedback from them and modify the same in the light of their comments and suggestions. In this module, we learn about the fundamentals of research process, like the meaning and importance of research process, details of the 7 steps related to research process like selection, formulation of the research problem, review of earlier literature, formulation of hypothesis, research design, collection of data, analysis of data and interpretation of reporting of data. Almost all social science researchers, including population scientists, will learn these in their PG programs, but application of these in real settings become a tough task, since day by day new developments are taking place in several methodological issues, and thereby researchers will be successful if they learn such new ones. Thank you.